My name is Jolene Sims, and at 36, I found out my family had been keeping a price tag on me I never agreed to. The night I lost the biggest contract of my career, my sister didn't ask if I'd eaten. She asked who was going to cover her car payment now. My mom nodded along like that was the real tragedy in the room. And my dad walked into my old bedroom, pulled a flat box off the closet shelf, and started folding my shirts into it. They had no idea what I'd already built 3 hours down the coast. Or whose name was really on the deed to a small house by the water. What happened over the next few weeks took the whole thing apart, board by board. Welcome back to Hidden Family Revenge, where quiet people finally stop holding the door open for folks who only knock when they want something. If this story makes you sit up a little straighter, stay with me, drop a comment, and subscribe. Let me take you back to that Friday in late spring. I run a company called Tideline Property Restoration. We take coastal houses the ocean has tried to kill and bring them back. Rotted joists, salt-eaten siding, foundations the storms loosened. I started it with nothing but a truck and a borrowed nail gun, and I built it into something real. So when my biggest client called that Friday morning to say his investor had pulled out, I didn't fall apart. The resort restoration was gone. A quarter of my year's revenue, gone in one phone call. I sat in my office in Mara Bay, looked at the numbers, then closed the laptop. I've rebuilt houses the sea swallowed whole. I could rebuild a quarter. What bothered me wasn't the money. It was that I had nobody to tell, because nobody in my family ever asked what I actually did. They thought I worked construction. Close enough. I let them believe it. That afternoon, I made the drive I made every Friday. 3 hours inland to Mill Haven, the town I grew up in, to the house I'd been keeping alive for 18 months. My dad had a heart attack a year and a half back. I moved into my old room to help. I kept my real life on the coast and my obligation in Mill Haven, and I drove the line between them every single week. When I pulled into the driveway that evening, there were 2 extra cars at the curb. My cousin Dell's truck and the rusted Charger that belonged to my sister's boyfriend, Cody. In my family, company on a Friday usually meant somebody had already decided something about me, and I'd be the last to hear it. The screen door slapped behind me, and my sister's voice met me before I cleared the hall. So it's true, you got fired. Brittany was folded into the corner of the couch with her phone, Cody beside her. My mom in the armchair. The neighbor, Mrs. Pewitt, sat by the window with a glass of sweet tea, pretending she wasn't there for the show. Laid off, I said. The client went under. Nobody fired me. Brittany didn't care about the difference. She turned to my mother like I wasn't standing there. Mom, who's going to pay my car now? There it was. Not, are you okay? Not, what happened? Just a bill, addressed to me. My mom set her tea down and folded her hands the way she does when she's already made a decision and wants it to look like a conversation. Now, Jolene, don't get worked up. We'll sort it out. You always sort it out. Cody smirked at his phone. Dell by the kitchen doorway gave me a look I couldn't read yet, something close to a warning. How do you already know? I asked. Brittany shrugged. Cody's cousin works at the supply. Word travels. They'd known for hours. They'd gathered in this living room and discussed my bad day before I even made it through the door. And the only item on the agenda was Brittany's $300 payment. I drove 3 hours to find out my own family had a meeting about my paycheck, I said. My mom smiled like I was being difficult. Sit down, honey. You're tired. I didn't sit. My father, Wayne, came in from the hallway holding a flat cardboard box, the kind we kept for moving. He popped it open and set it on the coffee table without looking at me. Your sister and Cody need a real room, he said. They're talking about getting married. It makes sense for them to have yours. Then my mother delivered the line she'd clearly rehearsed. Your sister needs this house more than you do, Jolene. She said it gently, which made it worse. Brittany didn't even glance up. Mrs. Pewitt found something fascinating in her tea. I followed my dad down the hall and watched him fold my work shirts into that box. The same hands that taught me to swing a hammer, now packing me out of a house I'd been holding together for 18 months. You're really doing this, I said. You've always landed on your feet." My mother called it from the living room like that settled it, and there it was, the family motto. Jolene lands on her feet so nobody has to catch her. I looked at the box. My grandmother's old sewing tin was on top, the one Nana gave me when I was 12. I picked it up and held it. Then I reached into my jacket pocket and felt the cold weight of a key ring I'd never explained to anyone in that house. I didn't explain it now. "You're not throwing me out," I said. Quiet. "I'm choosing the door." My dad looked at me, and for a second something flickered behind his eyes. Then my mom said, "Don't be dramatic," and he went back to folding. I picked up the box myself. I walked out before anyone could open the door for me, and I shut it behind me on my own. I drove the 3 hours back to the coast that same night, the box rattling on the seat behind me. I didn't cry. I was too busy doing math. By the time the lights of Mara Bay came up over the dunes, I'd already decided how the next month was going to go. My business partner, Renata Vance, was still at the office at 10 p.m., the way she always was when a contract fell through, and we needed to scramble. She took one look at me carrying that box and set down her coffee. "You finally left that house," she said. "They left me," I told her. "I just stopped arguing about it." Renata had been telling me for a year to pull back from Mill Haven. She'd watched me wire money home, cover bills, drive that highway every weekend, and come back emptier each time. "Good," she said. "Now what do you want to do about it?" I set the box down on my desk. On top, under the sewing tin, was a folder I'd been carrying back and forth like a secret for 3 years. Renata saw me look at it. "Is it time?" she asked. I still wasn't sure. But for the first time in 18 months, I felt the rope finally go slack. Let me back up, because the box didn't come out of nowhere. 18 months earlier, my dad collapsed in the driveway with a heart attack. I got the call at a job site and drove 3 hours without stopping. I never really left after that. Somebody had to manage the house while he recovered. And in my family, somebody has always meant me. My mom didn't work. Brittany drifted between jobs she quit before they could fire her. So I moved into my old room and took the weight. I caught up the property taxes that had quietly fallen behind. I covered the gap in the homeowner's insurance. And when Brittany wanted a newer car and her credit couldn't carry it, my mother handed me a pen and I co-signed. Because a default would wreck the credit, I needed to run my own business. I didn't do it to be a martyr. I did it because I can't stand watching a thing fall apart when I know how to hold it up. That's my flaw, if you want to name it. I fix things. I'd rather carry the load than argue about whose load it is. I told myself it was temporary. I even set a condition once. Brittany pays her own car after 6 months, I said the day I signed. My mother waved it off. She's getting on her feet. She never got on her feet because nobody ever let her hit the ground. And me, I was the one who never needed catching. Which in that house was just another way of saying I was the one nobody had to think about. People who hear this story always ask the same thing. Why does your mother love your sister more? It isn't that simple. Between Brittany and me, my mother lost 2 babies. She doesn't talk about it, but my grandmother told me once years ago. 2 pregnancies that ended before they started, and then Brittany arrived. Small and early, breathing against the odds. My mom decided that child would never want for anything as long as she lived. She built her whole self around keeping Brittany safe, and somewhere in there, she decided I was the strong one, the one who didn't need worrying over. I understand where it came from. Understanding it never made it hurt less. My father came from his own wreckage. His own father was a hard, loud man. Wayne learned early that peace meant agreeing with whoever raised their voice the most. In our house, that was my mother, so he didn't fight for me. He just kept his head down and folded shirts when he was told to. The only person who ever saw me clearly was my grandmother. Nana Marlene used to pull me aside when I was small and say, "You were never the strong one to me, baby. You were just the only one who showed up." She lived in a back room of the Mill Haven house now. 80 next month, her world had shrunk down to a recliner and a window. I think that's why I drove that highway so long, not for my mother. For the old woman in the back room who still remembered my name when nobody else bothered. That first night back in Mara Bay, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with a laptop and a cup of cold coffee, and I started pulling the threads. First, the auto pay I'd set up for the Mill Haven property taxes and homeowners insurance. Both ran out of my account. Both stopped that night with 2 clicks. Then Brittany's car. I logged in and killed the auto pay. A Costner can't just vanish from a loan cleanly. The only real exit was for Brittany to refinance in her own name, and she'd never qualify. So I did the honest thing instead. I stopped covering it, and I told her in plain words the payments were hers now. If she let it default, it would scuff my credit too. I decided I could carry one bruise to be free of a 15-year tab. Then I made a list of every standing thing I'd been quietly covering, and I drew a line through each one. It took about an hour. And when I was done, the whole quiet machine I'd been running for that house had stopped. They threw me out at sunset. By midnight, the floor under them had started to give. And they didn't even know it yet. I wasn't doing it to punish anyone. A wall can't hold up a room it isn't standing in anymore. I opened the locked folder I'd carried back from Mill Haven. Inside was a deed, 3 years old with my name on it. A small house on a strip of beach 40 minutes up the coast. I'd told no one. Not Brittany, not my mother, not my father. I traced the address with my finger the way you touch a photograph of someone you almost lost. Then I closed the folder and went to bed. For 2 days, the house in Mill Haven went silent. No call from my mother, no text from my father. Brittany posted a photo of my old room with a caption about finally getting space. I threw myself into work. Renata and I went after smaller jobs to cover the hole the resort left. A storm-damaged duplex. A widow's porch that was one good wind from collapse. Honest work that paid on time. On the 3rd morning, my cousin Del called. "Hey," he said, "thought you should know. A letter came to the house. Bank letterhead. Your mom's been staring at it all morning." "What kind of letter?" "Something about a home equity line." She looked scared, Jolene. She kept asking your dad what it meant. He didn't know either. I felt something cold settle behind my ribs. "What home equity line?" I asked. Del went quiet. "I figured you set it up. It's got your name mixed up in it somehow." I thanked him and hung up and sat very still. There was a piece of this I didn't have yet, and it had my name on it. That afternoon, Brittany called. "Hey," she said, "so my insurance is due Monday. Can you cover it?" And Mom says the water heater is making a noise, so probably that too. No hello, no question that didn't end in a dollar amount. "Brittany," I said, "do you know where I am right now?" "I don't know." "The beach somewhere. I'm 3 hours away and I'm off your payroll." A pause. Cody murmured something low in the background. "Don't be like that," Brittany said. "You always handle this stuff." I handled it because nobody else would. That's not the same as it being mine to handle. So you're just going to let my car get repossessed over your feelings? I'm not your bank, Brittany. I never was supposed to be. Cody's voice got louder. "Ask her about the other thing," he said. Brittany shushed him fast, but I'd already heard it. "The other thing?" I asked. "What other thing?" "Nothing," she said, too fast. "Forget it." She hung up. I set the phone down and looked at it a long while. There was a script in that family and I'd been playing my part in it for 15 years. The dependable one, the open wallet, the wall. And now that I'd walked off the set, they were all confused that the lines weren't landing. But somebody had just let a page slip. And Cody didn't seem like the type to stay quiet long. That night, I sent the message I should have sent years before. I kept it short, to all 3 of them at once. The taxes, the insurance, the car cosign, done as of now. A clean date, the bank's number, and nothing else. No apology, no paragraph about how much it hurt. I'd learned a long time ago that grief doesn't move people who think your job is to bleed quietly. Only consequences do. Before I hit send, I wrote one line for myself. Family isn't a bill. It's a door, and I'm done holding it open for people who only knock when they want something. I didn't send that part. I just needed to read it in my own handwriting once. Then I hit send on the rest and put the phone face down. Renata read it the next morning and nodded once. No soft edges, she said. Let them make me the villain, I told her. I've been the wall for 15 years. They can carry the roof for a while, I meant it, but I already knew my mother. She wouldn't argue the money, she'd argue the love. She'd turn a spreadsheet into a betrayal and a boundary into cruelty, because that was the only language that had ever worked on me. And for 15 years it had. The storm hit by noon. My mother called 6 times before I answered. When I finally picked up, she didn't lead with money. She led with the knife. After everything this family has done for you, she said. This is who you've become. What has this family done for me, Mom? Silence. She didn't have a list. You've always landed on your feet, Jolene. You don't need us the way your sister does. Why are you doing this to her? I'm not doing anything to Brittany. I stopped doing things for her. That's not the same. She could lose her car, then she can make her payments the way adults do. My mother's voice cracked right on cue. I lost 2 babies, Jolene. You don't understand what it is to almost lose a child. It was the one true thing she'd said. And she used it like a weapon, the way she always did. I do understand, Mom, I said quietly. I've understood my whole life. That's why I drove that highway for 18 months. But grief isn't a bill I owe forever. Silence again. Then she said the thing that told me exactly where this was headed. We'll just figure out your grandmother's birthday without you. Nana's 80th. The whole family had been planning it, and my mother had just turned it into a battlefield. I hung up. And a plan I'd been afraid to make for 3 years started very quietly to take shape. I drove back to Mill Haven 2 days later, but not for my mother. I went in through the side door, the one near the back room, so I wouldn't have to pass through the living room. Nana Marlene was in her recliner by the window, a quilt over her knees, smaller than the last time I'd seen her. Her face lit up the way it always did, like I was the only weather she cared about. There's my girl, she said. I pulled a chair close and held her hand. The skin was thin as paper. We talked about small things, the birds at her feeder, a show she liked. Then she got quiet and looked out at the gray Mill Haven sky. 80 years, she said. Can you believe it? What do you want for it? I asked. For the birthday. She smiled, but it was a sad one. I had one good house in my whole life, she said, out on the water. Your grandfather and I bought it the year we married. We lost it when the bad years came. The sea took everything else but that porch. I used to watch the sun go down off that porch and think, this is mine. Nobody can take this. She squeezed my hand. Funny what a person remembers at the end. I didn't tell her what I knew, not yet. I just sat with her until the light changed. And on the drive back to the coast, I made a call to my attorney about a document I'd been thinking about for 3 years and never been brave enough to draw up. The house Nana lost is the house I bought back.